Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Off the Rails podcast. Glad to have you all joining us today. How you doing, Kelly?
I'm doing okay, hanging in there.
Okay, glad to hear it. It is this day of recording is a beautiful fall day, and it seemed like we went right from like summer to extreme fall, whatever that means. But it was like 85 degrees
like
one day,
sports,
and then 55 and windy and rainy,
stormy.
Yes, but such is the life in Michigan, and I wouldn't have it any other way. So hope everyone is doing well. Hope this podcast finds you well today, and we are grateful for your time and attention. So our topic for today is boundaries, and I can't even really remember where that came from. I think it just kind of popped up, Holy Spirit, hocus pocus like. And a kind of a subtitle of that is the Holy No.
Oh,
so
I like that.
Yeah, it's a good thing to say.
When no is the right answer.
Yes.
The faithful answer.
Yes, exactly. So we are going to tackle boundaries from a variety of different places. And again, just glad that you're here with us today. So we're going to start off the episode with the confession from behind the table. And it's my turn. I think I realized I don't think these are necessarily confessions anymore. I think they're just like kind of
where we made fools of
silly
ourselves.
Stories or
things happen to
speak
us.
For yourself. I mean, So anyway, my I can't remember when this particular incident happened, but I was in the church and going to make my way upstairs, and to try and explain this, I came around a corner to a stairwell where the only way you can basically go at this point is up. And sitting halfway up on the stairs was a chipmunk. And so essentially it's going up to like our balcony, and we have a classroom right off whatever. So I see this chipmunk. We both stare each other down for a hot second. And then, of course, it turns and runs upstairs, which in some ways was good, because if it had come in my direction, it basically had the rest of the church in which it could have gone, God only knows where.
Right.
So at least up to the balcony, it was a closed door, or else there was off to the left, there's a classroom. And, of course, that is where it went, off to the left. So in the grand scheme of the church, It's in a very confined space, yet plenty of places to hide.
Right.
But as you all know, that having rodents of any kind in a building it's not good.
No.
That can wreak a lot of havoc.
Yep.
So it ran into like this little closet space and whatever that was full of all this stuff that I was like, okay, I'm never going to find this thing. But even if I did, what does that mean?
Right.
So I decided that, so what did I do? I closed the door to the classroom, and I went downstairs to find some food. And I think I found like a donut or something.
Hey.
There was like a donut hanging out.
Right. What else would you have at church?
Well, exactly.
Right.
So I take this donut back upstairs, and there's a window in this classroom that goes out to the roof of the church. But also I know that on the roof of the church, there's a couple telephone poles that are really close to the roof. So I'm thinking, okay, if I can get this thing out the window, it's got options.
You're so kind, giving the squirrel options.
Well, it's a chipmunk.
It's chipmunk.
Little guy. So anyway, same difference really. But so anyway, I proceeded to, so I opened up the window, I popped out the screen, and then I kind of made a set of stairs.
Oh.
Going from the window down into the classroom. And I knew essentially where this thing was, so I just kind of did like this little
food trail,
breadcrumb trail, so to speak, of this donut with just little pieces, but the main part of the donut I left on the windowsill where the window was open.
Good thinking.
So did my little bit there and quietly left the room, and I think I came back the next day and saw that a majority of the donut that was sitting on the windowsill had been eaten.
Oh, good.
So I was like, all right, I think he's gone. So I was really proud of myself for this little trail of,
Right.
and giving him steps to get up to the windowsill.
Wow.
Because definitely for a chipmunk, way too tall for them to get up there.
You could start your own company. Chipmunks Are Us with Kate.
Chipmunk removal. Pastor Kate's chipmunk removal. Yes. And I think I took a picture of it somewhere.
I was just going to say, I
got
thought there was a photo.
I got a photo of my
You've had a couple encounters with animals in the building.
Uh-huh. Yep. And we'll save the squirrel story for another day. But
Oh, man. That's
So-
a pretty good story. So you
there you
didn't
go.
know that was in your job description.
nope, it is now.
Chipmunk removal.
Chipmunk removal. It is now.
Being a pastor.
Yes. Yep. Again,
Pretty cool.
the things they don't teach you in seminary.
So true.
Yes. Yep.
The donut caper.
So again, not really a confession, but kind of a silly story of what happens behind the walls of a church
Exactly.
that most people don't know about. But now you all
Exactly.
do. So
Why be dull? Go after chasing chipmunks.
exactly. Yes. All right. So
man.
again, we welcome you to today's topic and episode and boundaries, the holy no. So I definitely think this is a topic that is helpful for all of us
Yeah.
for just a variety of reasons. Because we need to create boundaries in our world and in our lives to take care of ourselves, to take care of our families, to
not get in trouble in our
I was going to
relationships.
say to not get in trouble, and not
Right.
only in relationships, but in life in general
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, and it also takes practice. It's
Right.
not like you're like, today I'm going to start boundaries.
Right.
I mean, sometimes you grow up in a house where there isn't a lot of boundaries, and
Right.
you have to start afresh, and it takes lots of practice.
Yes. Yeah. And since you bring up the idea of, growing up, I mean, you had to have, I think, in order to be a productive, well-intentioned adult that can function well as an adult, you needed to have boundaries as a kid. And if you didn't, I think it makes life harder as you grow up.
Yeah.
So, but probably not what we thought. What we think are boundaries is also discipline at the same time. But yeah,
Can be.
our parents had to. I mean, I'm grateful for the boundaries. You're not grateful when they're put on you
No, not
at
all.
whatever age, but
Yeah.
but when you finally get to that age of maturity and wisdom, you realize boundaries.
I'm waiting
are,
for that.
right? Exactly. You realize boundaries are a good thing. So, we're just going to head all the way back to the very beginning of time and creation and scripture, because God created boundaries first. In a
People don't
variety
think
of
that.
ways. No, no, they don't. Nope. So he created, all the boundaries that we know of, from the sea and the sky and the light and the dark and all that good stuff. And he also created boundaries for behavior when he created, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil in the garden, and set up boundaries between himself and Adam and Eve. So these are good things. These are good things to have.
I like the takeaway. God's limits are an expression of love and protection.
Right.
So if I break curfew and I'm 16 and I've got a new license and I'm planning to take the girls out for Friday night, but I break curfew the day before, and I come home and I'm like, I was only 5 minutes late, and they're like, sorry, you knew the boundary.
Oh, yeah.
Nights off, I would be like, I'd go to school the next day. Oh, my parents are so mean. I was only 5 minutes late. Man, but those are the tough choices, and often it's the parents that pay for that, because following up with a boundary,
I would imagine.
whoo, dang, you take away that Game Boy for a month. Oh boy, that was
Game Boy?
Whoo, geez.
Did you have a Game Boy as a kid?
No, but I took it away from our son, and it was the longest month ever.
Yep,
It was
I
like
bet.
we went through the paces.
It was probably harder on you than it
It
was
was
on him.
definitely harder on us. He didn't think that, but it was like, oh. Why? We're going on a road trip. What were we
Right.
thinking?
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
But so I guess thinking about technology and boundaries, when I take my students on a mission trip every summer, we put up the boundary that phones aren't allowed. I mean, they're allowed in certain situations, like when we fly. I want my kids to have phones because we're kind of spread out in an airport and time to kill.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I just need to be able to get in touch with them.
Right.
But in the heart of the trip, they are not allowed to have their phones. And at first they hate it and it's cringeworthy and like, how am I going to do this? But then inevitably, always they are just thankful by the end of the trip, or thankful even in the middle of it. Like, thank you for instilling this boundary, because they wouldn't create it for themselves.
Right.
But it turns out that they really like it.
Wasn't there a situation where you said you could have it and they were like, no? Wasn't there a situation?
This past summer I was programming one night. Programming is when we get together every evening and we do like devotions and an activity and discussion and that kind of thing. And I was I had created this lesson plan where I needed them to like probably Google something or whatever. And so as we were getting ready to meet, I'm like, all right, grab your Bibles, grab your journals, grab your phones. They're like, no phones. I'm like,
oh,
okay, well,
wow.
I will rework. I'll rework my lesson. Thank you. No problem.
Right.
So
how about that?
Yeah, it was cool.
And their parents are all in shock.
Yeah, right. Right.
Wait, what?
Exactly. Yes. See, do you want to do the next one?
Yeah. So, example of Jesus. So, how do you say no without guilt? And we look to Jesus for that. And it is so common in the Gospels when he's encountering people day after day. He often withdraws to pray. Even when people needed him, even when they, it's like, hey, Jesus, let's get going. Or there's a crowd and he's off praying. And saying no to the crowds actually was the right response, because if he's not filled up himself, if you don't take care of you, if you don't love yourself, the whole neighbor love yourself thing, you don't have much to give to anybody else. And so he really modeled that. And it would also say, early in the morning while it was still dark, he would get up to pray, kind of get himself ready for the day. And they really, in Mark's gospel especially, it's a solitary place.
Right.
Like if you don't get it, like he's not just going off, it's not just dark, he wants to be alone. Right. He needs to be alone.
Right.
And sometimes the disciples, even though this is a practice, they're like, okay, time's up now, let's go.
Right.
They're all about getting him to the next place, like everyone's looking for you. And that's a whole different level. Like, okay, I'm off and praying, and now they're disturbing his time.
Right.
And then they're reprimanding him. So it always strikes me funny when the disciples are like, hey, Jesus, you're not getting with the mission.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah. And so Jesus saying no and us saying no to things doesn't mean that we're unloving. We're just trying to stay faithful. Just trying to stay faithful to the moment, to ourselves, to the mission. So I've an example from my own life right now. I lost my brother this past summer, and I've been really trying to keep up with my sister-in-law, and I have been so proud of her and the boundaries that she is putting around herself right now as she is navigating this time of just, unprecedented grief. And I just, every time I talk to her, she'll say, well, I did this, or I decided not to do that. And I think that's fantastic. And I just am, again, just really proud of the way that she is navigating. She knows what she can do and she knows what she can't. And she doesn't feel any guilt whatsoever saying no to me, to my sisters, to whoever that she needs to say no to when we invite her to do something or whatever. It's impressive.
Yeah.
'Cause she's taking care of herself, and she knows her limits in the midst of her sadness. And that's, in a world where you do tend to feel guilty when you say no.
Yeah.
I'm glad. I'm really, again, proud of her that she's not letting any feelings of guilt get in the way, because she clearly needs to really take care of herself right now. It's pretty awesome.
Well, and she's modeling what it means to love yourself, like love your neighbor as yourself. I was going to, so there's these famous books, if you haven't heard, they've been around forever. There's these guys named Cloud and Townsend, and they wrote the book on boundaries back in the day. It's boundaries, when to say yes, when to say no, to take control of your life. And it's classic. They've been revised. There's also boundaries with kids that I used when I had a practice in psychology. And I just wanted, speaking of guilt, I just wanted to read this little excerpt about that having boundaries is putting power back into your life.
Oh, I like that.
And that's kind of a neat concept.
Yep.
Like, it's not just like, okay, I want to try to practice my boundaries because I should do it.
Right.
And what it means to model that for kids, like to let kids know it's okay to say, no, I disagree.
Right.
I will not.
Right.
I choose not to. Stop that. It hurts. It's wrong. And it says, what's the reasons why we catch ourselves in the throat that we don't have a boundary?
Right.
Fear of hurting other people's feelings is a big one, no matter how old you are.
Right.
Fear of abandonment or separateness. Like, what if they're not my friend anymore? What if they keep turning them down? Will they kind of stop asking? I wish to be totally dependent on another. And you're like, what's that about? Fear of someone else's anger. What if someone gets mad at me because I'm putting down these boundaries? And I will tell you that when you're in any kind of family dynamic, no matter how old you are, if you decide to really put boundaries down and your family is not used to you, like they're used to you dropping everything to come over to mom's house or do whatever, and you're like, no, I'm taking a class, or I'm just spending the evening at home alone. They're like, what? Don't you care about me? I mean, here it comes, right? Fear of being
that's
shamed.
not your problem. That's their problem.
Exactly. And they're just not used to it. So, it's going to be tough. In the end, it will be so worth it. And then the fear of being seen as like selfish. All you need is someone you love when you start enacting boundaries. And you're like, no, I'm not doing that. And they're going to go, well, you were never that selfish before.
Right.
I'm not selfish. I'm trying to practice good boundaries.
Right.
And then the last one is guilt. It's the number one reason why we don't follow through with boundaries is we just feel guilty. And then if we continue to not have boundaries, then it gets into a whole mess of other things. Like now we're overwhelmed. We can't say no. We start getting resentful. It's just it's a downward spiral.
Gets messy. Gets messy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next one, I love this, the scripture. It's guard your heart, and it's a scripture passage from Proverbs. So above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. And again, putting up boundaries. So it's the word of the day, right?
Right.
You got to watch out for yourself and guard your heart. And what situations are you putting yourself in? Are you putting yourself in a situation where you feel guilty? Are you putting yourself in a situation where you feel badly about whatever? But first and foremost, guard your heart. It's not selfish. It's spiritual stewardship.
Spiritual stewardship.
And guarding your hearts.
Explain that. Spiritual stewardship. So stewardship is...
Well, stewardship is taking care of what has been given to you. So if you're a good steward of the environment, you're a good steward of your money, you're a good steward of your time. And stewardship isn't always spiritual, but it... I think we've been called to spiritual stewardship of all these things, right? Of our time, our bodies, our environment, our money. And when you're taking care of your heart, you're spiritually taking care of it. You're just being, again. So when you're guarding your heart, it's what are you exposing yourself to?
There you go. Wow.
What are you exposing yourself to? And when you're careful of what you're exposing yourself to, and especially if you are also making sure that you're exposing yourself to Jesus and God's word and the Holy Spirit and spiritual people around you, you're building yourself up spiritually, and that stuff is becoming prevalent on your heart. And so guarding that, that's...
Yeah, I think that's good. I think it also kind of like choices, right? When we're not guarding our heart, we can be influenced by other people,
Yes.
by media, by you name it, fill in the blank, especially when you're like tired and you're feeling overwhelmed. And it's amazing how things can just kind of creep in. Or like, hey, I'm only having a couple drinks after work every day.
Right.
And then before you know it, you've got a big hurdle to cross, things that are acceptable at first because you're like, well, I got this going on and this going on, but I didn't lay down the boundary that you don't drink during the week or whatever it is you're doing. It's easy to let kind of things creep in, and then all of a sudden you look up and you're like, uh-oh, I'm kind of in over my head. Now I need some help.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. So what enters your heart shapes your words and your thoughts and your actions
And your attitude.
Attitude.
Absolutely.
And ultimately, it will affect your peace one way or another.
Yeah.
So
then it'll affect your relationships. It's hard
well, that's
to be
perfect.
there for people.
Boundaries and relationships. Have at it.
Hey!
Nice
That
segue.
Thank you. I served you the ball.
Yeah, that's your turn though.
Oh, cool. So this is tricky, right? Because now you're going outside yourself. So this passage in Galatians, carry each other's burdens, and this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. If anyone thinks that they are something when they are not, they deceive themselves. Each one should take their own actions. Then they can take pride in themselves alone without comparing themselves to someone else, for each one should carry their own load. So there's the comparison game.
Yep.
That's the worst place to put yourself because, we often talk about this, especially with social media. So if you're having kind of a lousy day, if you're wondering how you're going to make it to the next paycheck or whatever it is, and you go online and you see your friends and they're showing you like hey, we went to the summer house,
their
or
travels,
their vacation,
and their
or
fancy dinners, and
but you have no idea. You're only seeing like one side, one like little. It's like the cover page of a book. That's all you're seeing. You don't know what's behind that. I mean, everybody's got something going on, but it's so easy to start feeling sorry for yourself and to feed that and start taking that in and comparing yourself. Oh my goodness, that's going to take you down. And two, I think too, we're called to carry each other's burdens, which is verse 2, and to carry our own load, which is verse 5.
Right.
And that's a tricky line.
Yeah.
That's a tricky line. So we're called to carry each other's burdens because if we carry each other's burdens, the load is lightened.
Right.
And to carry our own load, it's like having accountability. Like if I make a choice that I know isn't going to work out for me, but I continue to make it, there will be consequences. I can feel sorry for myself. I can ask for God to forgive me. God will forgive me. But there's going to be consequences because I chose to do something. But to have your own accountability. So accountability, when you're only pointing the finger outside yourself for all that's going on in your life, that's not owning your own behavior.
Right.
And that is a slippery slope.
Right. Or if you're too busy, like it says, you also got to carry your own load. Too busy just dumping all your crap on somebody else.
Yeah.
That's a problem. And then you start to, that's that codependency issue starts creeping in, and that's a problem. So you got to figure out what the boundary is between how much of someone else's stuff can I carry, and how much of my own stuff can I carry before I need help.
Yeah.
Because you also don't want to be so burdened down with your own stuff and not letting someone else help you.
Yeah.
That's unhealthy.
Right.
At the same time, taking on too much of someone else's burdens, especially if it's someone that's not willing to carry their own share.
Right.
That's a big boundary issue. That's problematic.
And that's a really good question. So I do, both of us, we marry couples and we do premaritals, and in one of my favorite little sections, it talks about right now, are you able to ask for help from your spouse, from your future spouse?
Okay.
Like if you're feeling overwhelmed. So let's say, there's a big project at work for one of you. You're looking at the week ahead going, oh my gosh, I don't think I'll be able to see you this week. It's just, this is what's happening at work. And for the other person to go, hey, no problem. Or how about I pick up, and when I'm seeing people, it's endless wedding plans or navigating the guest list or whatever.
The mother-in-law.
Yeah. Right? Or it's just like,
Why
hey,
is it always the
can you?
mother-in-law?
I don't know.
I never seem to hear about bad father-in-laws.
I heard about one
Clearly
once.
they exist, but it's always the mother-in-law.
I also think it's true. Like if you got a roommate and one of you is like, "Hey, can I help you?" Or like, "Hey, you're having a busy week this week, and I know it's your turn to cook, but how about I take a night? I'll switch you off." And you're like, "No, I got it.
Right.
No problem." And then the other person's like, "All right, well, I asked. You said no. That's a healthy response. I'm going to go
Right.
do my thing." And then all of a sudden, an hour later, you're like really resentful of the person.
Right.
No fair.
Right.
No fair. People ask you for help and you decide, even though you're overwhelmed, to turn them down. That's on you.
Right.
That's
right.
So there's the accountability
Right.
piece.
And it's not just with the physical stuff. It's not just with the cooking and
Yes.
the cleaning and whatever,
Yeah.
but it's also, with whatever's going on in your world. This is
Right.
kind of like a little bit of a burden.
Yeah.
So the whole, how you doing? I'm fine.
Yeah. Well, maybe
Really?
not. Yeah.
But whatever. I mean, I'm way guilty of that. So
I think we all are.
it's fine.
Right. And so there becomes the question, what is that about? Like when you're not fine and you say you're fine. Is that just because we're so used in culture?
Oh, it's everything else you just said. It's
by,
the guilt. It's the not wanting to burden someone
Right.
else. It's the
Yeah, they got stuff going on in their life. They don't need to deal with stuff in my life.
correct. Right.
But it also means you're kind of hiding, like,
true.
Kind of thing. So eventually the dam will break and you need people.
Mm-hmm.
I learned that this last week.
Right.
Can I set, here's the question, and this comes up when you talk about boundaries. Can I set boundaries and still be a loving person? And for some reason, sometimes our unhealthy thinking's like, well, okay, I set the boundary, I feel good about the boundary, but when the pushback comes, then
Right.
you're like, oh.
Yeah, and then you start questioning
Yeah,
your
you start
choice.
second guessing. Yes, and absolutely, it's the loving response. One thing that I learned from a predecessor, and I've had a lot of them, so I don't remember which one, but when the nominating committee at a church goes calling all these people to serve in a variety of capacities, and at some point, one of my predecessors had said to me, young in the ministry, when the nominating calls somebody up and they're like, I don't know, and you may know the backstory and the nominating
Right.
committee doesn't
Right.
know the backstory,
Right.
always make yourself available. Like, you don't have to say why, you don't have to divulge any
Right.
confidences, but when the faithful answer is really no,
Right.
do that. And so one of the things I've really tried to do in the last decade of my ministry is say, if it's not the right season, if
Right.
it's not the right time, the faithful answer is no. Because then what happens is if you feel pressured or you feel guilty and you say yes, but you never show up, now there's nobody at the table
Right.
to participate, and you just continue to feel bad. And that's not, we don't want that becoming resentful of the church. So when the faithful answer is no, say no. And maybe you need somebody else. You need someone you trust to go, what do you think? Should I want to do this, but I don't know. Always reach out to a buddy that you trust.
Yeah, well, that's a good, another great segue, Kel, to having boundaries in ministry, especially for those of us who are, those who serve in the church, not just as pastors, but of course our invaluable volunteers and other leaders and that sort of thing. We really need our ministry leaders to not feel overburdened, because then that makes the church an unhealthy place. And unfortunately, we have that statistic that rolls around that 80% of church work is done by 20% of the people. Mm-hmm. And that's hard, and I do think that that's true-ish. I think we're lucky. I think we're a little bit higher than that. I think we have more than 20% of our folks doing stuff.
Yeah.
But not extravagantly more.
Right.
But we need to be careful that we don't burn these people out. And we need to not burn ourselves out. We need to be reminded that Jesus said that my yoke is easy and my burden is light. So serving, especially in a church capacity, should not be burdensome. But it definitely has the ability to become burdensome.
Sure.
And that's not okay.
Yeah. I think there's a difference between being passionate about an area in your church, a ministry. People
Right.
get really
Yeah,
like, and,
sure.
and there's like an area and you're like, I'm so empowered. And actually our system calls for you can do 2-3 year terms and then you must take a year off, which is really hard to tell somebody who's like, but I only do this area because
Right.
I got good boundaries and I love it. You're like, well, you still need a break.
Right.
So you get you're forced to take a year off, which is really interesting in the light. You don't picture church that culture that way. You're like, just
Right.
keep going. Oh, and we find you're good at this. Maybe you're good at this. And
Right.
before you know it, you're here 5 days a week.
Yes. And also being aware that you're not the end all be all.
Yeah.
And I think more as pastors, we need
Yes,
to be better
very
at
much
that.
so. Mm-hmm.
I love the story from the scriptures all the way back in the Old Testament from Exodus where Moses was the guy, right? He was the guy that everybody went to,
Yeah.
and for good reason, for very good reason. But his father-in-law Jethro was able to see like, okay, this guy is getting like,
Yeah.
he has no time to come up for air because everyone is coming to him for something or for advice or for things or for whatever. So finally Jethro's like, hey, you need to pick a few people in your life to also participate in
Right.
this with you because this is not sustainable. This is
Right.
not okay.
Yeah.
So, serving others is certainly sacred, but so is rest
Yeah.
and saying no to things and getting assistance and help.
Yeah. There's a lot of value in having a team of people. Just idea brainstorming. I mean, there's just nothing like it because you could be only thinking one direction and someone just asks you the right question and you go, oh. I
Right.
did that I was struggling with my sermon and Kate and I were on our way to somewhere and I just said, I just can't get this right. And you just asked one question and I was like, oh, that was it. Now I know where I'm going.
Well,
You just saved me hours.
excellent. Excellent.
Yeah.
So glad. So glad. So the other thing that we've got to have boundaries with and is the area of forgiveness. And this is a really
Yeah.
heavy topic, and we're only gonna
Right.
kind of scratch the surface, so to speak. But forgiveness with wisdom is a good boundary practice. Especially for those of you who have been hurt in insurmountable ways. I know that the idea of forgiveness, and Jesus does tell us we need to forgive those, we need to love our enemies, all these really, really difficult things. But I still think you need to approach that with wisdom, again, and taking care of yourself and guarding your heart, and offering forgiveness as a form of boundary making.
Well,
And I'm not sure what I mean by that, but go ahead. You're going to say something. So you're going to rescue me here.
I think too, when Jesus is telling us that we must learn to forgive, it's for us. It's for
Right.
us not carrying around
Right.
the burden, and it just goes for years and years. So an example in my life that was really up close and personal for me is there was. Anytime you have a family business, that's either going to go really well or really bad. And I grew up with my father and his two brothers having a company, and it went really well for about 5 years. All was great, and then one brother decided to go rogue and put money elsewhere, and the company went down. And literally, they lost everything. They went bankrupt. We were worried about our next meal on the table, and my mother harbored anger, resentment for my uncle. And I am really sad to say it resides today.
Yeah.
So I was 16 when that all went down. I'm 59. She is 84 in November, and she's in a skilled nursing facility with dementia. But if you mention his name, no matter how much she's lost, she's got that one down. Like, he actually came into town with my aunt, and all has been forgiven with my dad, and he wanted to come, and she refused, even in her state.
Yeah.
So it wrecked her. Like,
Yep.
it changed
And it's her loss.
Yeah, it changed her whole attitude on life. She didn't really have a lot of friends after that. She didn't trust people after that. And he, asked forgiveness for that, is a Christian. I mean, he moved forward, but she just let it eat her, and it's still eating her to this day. And it's amazing to me that she's forgotten so much. But when that is a focus of your life, that unforgiveness, it dominates.
Yeah.
It just, and then you just start looking for the wrong things, and it just it robs you of joy and your quality of life. So I really got to see that up close and personal. And you know, you might want to say something about reconciliation and forgiveness. I know that we've talked about that some.
Basically, that they're not the same thing,
Yeah,
right?
they're not the same.
Yeah. But I don't think you can have one without the other. I mean, you need to be able to forgive in order to reconcile. But you still, again, with the boundaries, understanding that you've been hurt, especially if you got someone in your life that continues to hurt you.
Yes.
Come on.
Yeah.
That's
not
I
what God
do
calls
get
you to.
that it's easier said than done, but you gotta walk away. You gotta figure out that piece. You gotta set up that boundary. And who are you surrounding yourselves with? What are you putting in your heart? Are you guarding your heart from certain people and things and whatever? But I mean, to be able to reconcile, I think that's redemption in action, right? And that's
what
that's
Jesus
a
came to
harder
do.
place to get to, you know. But you can still at least forgive. And I don't want this to sound like this is trite or simple, because we understand that it's not. But if you can at least get to that point of forgiveness, you don't necessarily have to reconcile and be best buds with somebody again.
Right.
You know,
Right.
Those who are divorced, you can still forgive your ex, but that doesn't mean you're going to go and get remarried.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so, so it's kind of a fine line, but
I think people assume that when Jesus says, forgive everyone, he's saying, and then stay in that relationship no matter how bad it is.
No.
And that's not what he's doing.
No.
So Jesus talks about he comes to give life. And certainly if someone is, abusing you in any way, shape, neglect, abuse in any way, shape, or form, and it's tearing you down.
Right.
You're not called to be in that relationship.
Correct.
So that's where the difference is between forgiveness and reconciliation. You can forgive,
Right.
but to stay in a situation that continues to put you in any harm's way, whether that's spiritually, theologically, I mean, any way, shape, or form.
Emotionally, physically.
You know, that to do that. And often it takes therapy, it takes a good support network, it takes Bible reading. There's some pretty good people out there that we can put in the show notes as well that can be helpful with that. And it's more about having you have a healthier life and be able, it's kind of like, so here's an example. It was such a shocking example. I was in seminary, got a summer job at a church in this small town that we were living in. And I was invited to sit in on a session with the pastor who had been talking to a woman for, I think, the better part of a year, and she was in an abusive relationship with her husband. And I'm like, oh, are you sure? And he's like, yep, because in order to be comfortable, she's allowed you to sit in that place. You can observe. And all was going well, and I felt terrible for this woman, and she kept going back, and was caught up in this whole thing. Well, I'm supposed to reconcile. No, Jesus doesn't say to reconcile. He says forgive, because it's good for you to forgive and move on.
Right.
And again, something had happened. She got hurt, and just like the night before. So she came in, big black eye. He'd been working with her for a year, and then she said something, and I don't remember what it is, but because this was a long time ago, and I was in my 20s. But basically, it shocked me at how unhealthy it was.
Right.
And literally, I think he had reached a point after a year where he was done, and he looked at her, and it was something about Jesus that she said, and he said, Jesus doesn't call us to be doormats. He calls us to be servants.
Ooh.
And
Wow. Right.
I mean, I had a social work bachelor's degree, and usually in therapy, you would not be quite so bold.
Right.
And I didn't understand how long they'd been meeting and how they had this rapport. But I will tell you, I will never forget that moment.
Yeah.
and it was it. It was the thing that got her to move. Like, oh my gosh,
right.
And that is the truth. And it's always stuck with me.
Yeah.
And to me, that's a good, yes, people can get tripped up, especially if you have a relationship, friendship, whatever, where you're really active in the church and they know that. And they start to use that against you. Like, well, doesn't Jesus say you have to forgive me? Yeah. So why can't you forgive me?
Yeah. Nice.
Does that mean that gets down a rough road. So, so Jesus calls us to be servants, not doormats. Yes. Whoa.
Yeah. All right. So there's no good transition here because that was pretty heavy.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
No. It's good. It's good. But the next thing, of course, boundaries, digital boundaries in a noisy world. And I know we probably don't have to go into this too much because we kind of talk about this frequently in a lot of our episodes. But talk about guarding your heart, man, and being careful what you consume and look at and whatever. And we are in a very noisy world, especially social media and whatever. So, So creating those boundaries on what you're exposing yourself to through your different platforms, and a lot of times just walking away from that is the best answer. To have, I think we talked about it like in Sabbath keeping, and we've talked about this in all sorts of topics in the past. But man, put that phone down. Be still.
Yeah,
be still and let God be God. That's Psalm 46:10, be still and know that I am God.
I love that verse. I'm trying to embrace that verse a whole lot more.
Yes.
I like this sentence. Silence and presence are modern acts of resistance.
Yes. Well,
and faith,
it's so true.
So to be silent.
Is so true. Because again, it's a noisy world. Lots of voices, lots of opinions out there. So being silent. Don't respond to the idiot on Facebook. Don't get into that argument. Right. Just be silent.
Right.
And that's a boundary.
Yeah.
That is a boundary. Bite your tongue.
Yeah, exactly.
Stop your fingers.
Wait 24 hours on that email.
Yes. Yes.
But as a modern act of resistance, that's who would have thought being a rebel is being quiet?
Well, again, because that's
resisting
new.
the temptation to engage with unhealthy behavior and arguments and
Jesus modeled that during his trial before his execution.
Yeah,
he said nothing. He said nothing before his accusers because he knew that his previous actions had already spoken louder, and he probably also knew that it didn't matter what he said; it wasn't going to change the outcome. And getting into an argument with someone on Facebook, expressing your opinion, it's not going to change the outcome. It's not going to change. It's just so have that boundary. Know what that looks like.
Yeah. You might be starting a conversation thinking it's going to be a mutual agree to disagree, and then it goes south.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So what's next? Boundaries with family. Ooh, I think we already got into that a little bit too.
Yeah. I just think, I love the example of Ruth making a healthy commitment that it was, and we've talked about her story quite a bit. Have
we?
Yeah, we did a little Esther, a little Ruth back, but it wouldn't be bad to. You're really good at summarizing Bible stories. You should do it. You're a good storyteller.
Okay. So,
meanwhile,
back in Moab.
So, dun, dun,
meanwhile, back in Moab,
it's official. We're corny pastors. That just did it. Cheesy.
Yes. So there was this woman, Naomi, and she had 2 sons and a husband, and she was a Moabite, right? So we are really literally in Moab, and her 2 sons were married. And unfortunately, all these men in her life died. So her husband and her 2 sons pass away. And I think wasn't she living outside of Moab? She was living outside of Moab, probably in her husband's town, region, wherever he came from. Then all these men die. So she's like, well, I've got nothing here anymore. So I need to go back to my hometown, my home country. So she went back to Moab. And in the process, her 2 daughter-in-laws kind of stuck with her. But she's like, no, you guys stay. You need to find new husbands, move on with your life. And one of the daughter-in-laws thanked her for that that blessing to do so. So she stayed. But Ruth stayed with Naomi and ended up traveling with Naomi back to her hometown of Moab. And in the process, ended up finding what's called a kinsman redeemer. So Ruth was actually a property owner in Moab, but because Naomi was a property owner in Moab, but because she wasn't a woman, or because she wasn't a man, she couldn't lay claim to it. So she needed to find someone in her lineage that was a man that could lay claim to it. And thankfully, they came across this gentleman by the name of Boaz, who eventually married Ruth. So because of Ruth's faithfulness to Naomi and sticking by her side, their son, Boaz and Ruth got married, and that was part of the lineage that gets us to Jesus.
Right, which is amazing.
Which is really cool. And that's like a very, very simplified version of
it's a really good story.
The story, but she models a healthy commitment rooted in faith and not obligation. It's clear Ruth did not feel any sense of obligation towards Naomi at all, but she had a sincere love for her and just wanted to stay with her and to serve her, and not out of like, I guess I should do this.
Well, and it was perilous. I mean, they didn't know where their next meal was coming from at the beginning, right? So there's no men providing that for them, and they set out on their own. And my goodness, it was really something. So
right. And then we've got the kind of the difficult passage from the Gospels, where Jesus talks about anyone who does not hate their father, mother, brother, or sister cannot be my disciple. Clearly, Jesus isn't saying you need to hate your family, but it is him saying, well, what's the most important thing? The most important thing in all of our lives really should be following Jesus and being his disciple, and then everything else falls into place really well once you have that piece. That piece taken care of. So it's Jesus kind of laying down the boundary of like, hey, get your relationship right with me first, so that your other relationships will look better, be better, sound better.
I think too, one of the things that stands out to me about that is, so following Jesus is about love and belief. So if I really want to follow Jesus, and then I'm trying to love like Jesus because he loved me, and if I become a more loving person because I'm following Jesus, it will then it'll trickle down. I'll become a more loving family member. I'll have more love to give and to receive because I have this relationship with Jesus. So, but Make no mistake, there are sacrifices that are made when you follow Jesus, and it's not always easy,
right?
But it will change your life, and so you have this love of Jesus. You try to live and walk like he lived and walked, and trust him that he's got you. And when you start focusing on that, it just opens you up to life and living and. I mean, Jesus came that we might have life abundant. So he's not saying walk away from your family and your life will be terrible when you follow me because somehow rejecting everything. It's like, no, your life will be more full.
Right.
I just love that image.
Yep. And again, when you follow him, you are also putting up boundaries, and you're learning how to, how to still have boundaries and still be healthy, because that's what he modeled. It's not anything new. So kind of coming to our last point, that you can live in the freedom that let your yes be yes and your no be no, because that's what Jesus did. And when you are his disciple, and when you're trying to model and do everything that he did, you can live in that peace and that freedom, and knowing that your yeses can be a yes and your no can be a no. Mm-hmm. And there's still love and grace to be found in that.
Well, and to live in that boundary, that's what helps you feel like you have more, Cloud Townsend would say control of your life. If you have these established things in your life, you know how to move and how to make choices, and and that just gives you more ease in life. And I think that's really, really the key. And I would highly recommend, if you feel like you need some help in this area. So I would describe it. So how, with a psychologist background, they were the gurus of boundaries, and how they described it initially in chapter 1 of their book is, are you someone, so imagine your life is like your backyard and there's a fence around it. Are you someone that learns to live inside your fence, like be the best you can be? Or are you someone that's continually looking over the fence at what the neighbors are doing, and you somehow can't seem to stop making comments, judgments, and you start ignoring your own life, and you're so preoccupied with what's happening with everybody around you that all of a sudden you've hurt a lot of relationships, you've neglected people in your life that are in your family, in your support network, because you're so preoccupied.
Right.
And I've literally worked with people with boundaries, and only once have I did all of this, and someone said to me, "Nope, I just can't. I love being in other people's backyards."
Right.
And I said, "I am so sorry."
Yeah, right.
Because that is going to hurt you time and again, and you are literally hurting other people. And I think if you can say it that way, it's not just about hurting you.
Right.
If you can't give the people in your life time and attention and love, you're going to be alone in this world. Because if all you're doing is casting judgment and messing with other people, oh my goodness, that's no way to live. And you're just going to be miserable, and you're going to just hurt other people. It's not a good choice. So,
or if you're setting up too many boundaries to the point where you are not engaging with other people or engaging in life, those aren't boundaries. There's got to be another word for that. That's just unhealthy. So don't couch it in the, I'm putting up my boundaries, not when you're not engaging in life and being present.
Yeah. And so, too, what A Course in Boundaries, what these books do is they actually give you examples. So here's, for example, so let's say you are married to someone who has a drinking problem, and you've talked about it. Hey, let's go to. I don't want to go to counseling. I don't want to do anything. Right. And it's the years are stacking up. So instead of just looking at them saying, I'm sick and tired of you drinking, you're going to get it under control. Right. You're like, I am so sorry that after all this time you continue to drink, because it's affecting me, the kids, whomever. Yeah. And so I'm going to tell you that I'm going to choose to walk away from you. And this is where I'm at. Right. So now can we have a discussion? And if we can't, I will follow through. So half the battle with boundaries is following through in what you lay down. So you should seriously think about, don't just do it in the spur of the moment. Right. Whatever the boundary is, small or big, think about what the boundary is. Can you live with it? Because if you start throwing out boundaries to people and you don't follow up on the boundaries, it's just going to tear you down. You are going to tear yourself down to the point, where, and, every day is a choice. So maybe today you're not doing so good with your boundaries. Tomorrow, pray for God to help you with your boundaries. What is the faithful boundary, and do I need to keep with it? So,
let your yes be yes and your no be no.
Yeah. And just stand by it.
That's scriptural.
Yeah. You might end up at your best friend's house crying in your lap, but you stood up to your boundary. Right. And it's finally change. It's finally a shift, and you're not going to be stuck anymore, kind of thing. So whatever that is, little to big.
Yep. And true freedom in Christ includes the freedom to choose. And you have the choice with your boundaries. What's it going to be?
Right.
What's it going to be? All right. Anything else that we need to add to this topic?
No, I would just
Anything
say
else?
if you're having boundaries, like if you focus on one area, like some people are like, I'm going to put boundaries in every area of my life. That's
That's
overwhelming.
overwhelming.
I would figure out what is the area. Is it the work? Is it a relationship? Is it whatever it is? And I'd zone in on the area that makes you overthink all day long. Like
Right.
you're getting ready in the morning and you're trying to practice what to say to somebody. Whatever that area is, you should focus on that one thing.
Yes.
And it's really interesting. I would get some resources because what's the most helpful thing to people when they're learning is you want to go, okay, I've said this before, and this is what it looks like to say it with a boundary. Like look up stuff, steal the words if you need to. And that's where boundaries, the books on boundaries are really helpful. They'll say, instead of saying this, say this.
Right.
And that sometimes you're so overwhelmed by life, you just need the words. So that's my shout out. We'll put that stuff in the show notes so you have it.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
All right. So you get to close us out with our blessing for today.
Yes, this is a blessing on boundaries.
Go figure.
We're just hammering this in. And let us encourage you in your boundaries. You know what? Pat yourself on the back when you fulfill a boundary.
Well, yeah.
Tell someone in your life,
Absolutely.
hey, guess what I did and it actually worked. And the more you do that, the better off you'll be.
Yep.
Encourage yourself. All right, so here is our blessing for all of us, Kate and I included. May you honor the sacred edges of your life, the places where your yes meets your no, where compassion for others makes room for care of your own soul. May you trust that boundaries are not walls to keep love out, but gates that guard the peace within you. When guilt whispers that you should do more, may grace remind you that even Jesus withdrew to rest and to pray. May your boundaries become holy lines of love, drawn not in fear, but in wisdom, so that your presence may remain open, honest, and whole. And may peace be the companion that walks beside you as you learn to love others and yourself with gentleness and truth. Amen.
Amen. All right. Well, thank you, friends. As always, really grateful to have you with us. And if this episode helped you or inspired you or whatever, we'd love it if you shared it with others. Please give us a review on all of the platforms that you find us. And hey, just a quick note. So this is episode 18. And we are looking to kind of wrap this up as season 1 after episode 20. So we're going to take a little break for the month of December. And so we got a couple more episodes coming your way and then a short break and we'll be back with you. So really grateful to all of you for your kind support through this.
Yeah.
All right. So be blessed. Have a great day.
God bless you all.